Hey, good day, everybody. This is Michael Kolbeck, your Truth Activator from Rise Again, and I want to talk about the continuation of Biotech II, The Awakening. We are now heading into the third act of the album, Into the Light. So we've progressed through so far for Act 1. We went into the darkness, right into all of those things, all the pain that we didn't want to face, the annihilation it felt like. And then from there we went into Act 2, the now. And it's all about surrendering within and finding that peace. It's about looking in that mirror of truth, the place that we don't want to look so much. And yet our truths are always shown and reflected back to us on the canvas of life around us through the relationships and things that we are involved in. And Act 2 teaches us to be in the now, to come within here. This is where you will find the peace that you're so desperately looking for. And Act 3 is into the light. So as we move into these last songs for Act 3, and I'm sorry, but I have to hold this little thing here, it has my notes on it in terms of what are the songs in each of these acts, because I have so many different songs and albums in the works right now that I tend to lose a little bit track of which songs and what order they come in on which album, etc. So Act 3, Into the Light. Into the light is so important. Into the light does not necessarily mean the eradication of the darkness, because think of the old yin-yang symbol, right? The white, the black, with the squiggle in the middle, right? We need both light and darkness in our life, but we can't live in the darkness. We can't avoid the darkness. We can't avoid our shadows, which is all about the way that I was living in Act 1. I was living a lot out of my shadow side. It doesn't mean I was living in bad and negative ways per se, but I was living in ways that were not necessarily healthy and did not have a good functional, solid dynamic and solid foundation behind them. So Act 3 takes us into the light. And the first song on Act 3 is Alchemy of Fire, the Convergence. I love stuff that refers to alchemy. And when you look at alchemy, fire is always one of the first essential processes of the alchemical process itself. It's that metaphorical turning lead into gold. It could be a literal turning metal into gold, because alchemy is everywhere in actual literal science. But we're talking more about the transformation that comes from within, the alchemy that happens when we are willing to look at the darkness, at the shadows within ourselves. When we are willing to look then into the now, in the mirror of truth. And we begin reconciling these different parts of self. And we begin bringing more of our light into the expression of ourselves. I mean, after all it is said, you are the light of the world. It's a proclamation of truth. It's not something we have to go find. It's not something we have to go dig up. But it is a proclamation of truth. You are the light of the world, and we are coming into the light as we begin to converge and we begin to integrate these shadows, these truths that we have uncovered, and we begin to process those and integrate those into our being so that we can embody them. And then it becomes just second nature of the way that we are and the way that we live. We then move from Alchemy of Fire into Flight of the Risen Phoenix. I love this one, Flight of the Risen Phoenix. I'm all about the Phoenix. Rise Again is all about the Phoenix and its absolute strength and healing and transformational powers. And Flight of the Risen Phoenix is that the Phoenix has been set free finally. Finally had some honest conversations with himself That would be me. Looking into that mirror of truth and saying, none of this from Act 1, none of this is working anymore. And then coming to that place within here where I find some peace and work through that alchemical process of transformation, right? Flight of the Risen Phoenix is all about being reborn. It's about reconciliation. It's about reclamation. It's about salvation. It's about coming home to yourself. You see, I had lived for so long out there, searching for meaning out there, giving all my loyalty, respect, etc. to individuals out there without giving hardly any of it to me. In fact, I really didn't fit into the equation at all. I was a very, very other-oriented person. In order to obtain a sense of value, a sense of worth for myself, I had to find it out there. That was the programming, the belief system that was instilled within me, that was operating from my subconscious all the time. Even though I might have had a different picture in my head of where I wanted my life to go, that and willpower was not strong enough to overcome the belief system that was so embedded down in the code of myself, that was emanating out at in a stronger electromagnetic way, and thereby creating these dynamics I was continually finding myself in that were very unhealthy. The next song after Flight of the Risen Phoenix is Welcome Home, and that's what I've already started talking about. It's welcome home. It's a coming home to self. This whole thing, for me, this album represents my journey of the past 7 years or so. And it's all about a coming home to me, because I was continually in the way of living an other-oriented life. I was continually abandoning myself in the process. When it would come to, well, what does Michael want? Well, that wasn't even a consideration. I mean, Michael's nowhere on the list, right? What's important is what everybody else wants. What is important is that I serve their needs and meet their needs. But it was almost always done, because of the way that my programming and belief system functioned, it was almost always done at the expense or the abandonment of myself. It's completely fine to serve other people. It's wonderful to serve other people. It's one of the ways that we contribute to life and contribute to society. But if you're doing that at the exclusion and the abandonment of yourself, you have to question, well, where's me in all of this? Welcome Home is about finally coming home to me. Finally making this internal world, which used to be full of chaos, which used to be full of, am I getting this right? Am I doing this wrong? So many worries, because I was always seeking validation from out there. Welcome Home is about coming home to that peace within here, finding that place of peace, bringing peace to those internal conflicts and those internal wars that have been raging for so long. There's an African proverb that says, there can be no war without, there can be no war out there if there is no war within. Again, it's talking about operating from the inside out. The things I was experiencing in my life in the past that were very chaotic, highly dysfunctional, etc., was in part a reflection of my own internal world, being at such odds with different parts of self in here. Welcome Home is about, we finally come through, we finally integrated these pieces, we finally welcomed home those parts of self that I've denied for so long, those parts of self that I don't want to look at, those parts of self that I would use to judge. And it's finally welcoming home. And it doesn't mean that judgment of those of parts of self and stuff still don't happen on occasion from time to time. But now I have the tools and resources to go, oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Why am I judging that part of myself? What is it that this part of myself wants? This part of myself is welcome at this table of me that includes all the different facets of Michael. And we all get a place at the table. However, there is only one part of self, the master, let's say, that actually gets to lead and gets to call the shots and gets to make the decisions and take the actions for the best life that we can all have. And the next, that kind of leads into victory, right? Because when you come into a place like that, oh, it feels victorious. And that's the next song, is Victory, right? It's just that victorious feeling that you have, like you've risen again. And like anything is possible, no longer are you wading through the muck and the darkness and everything else and the messiness of everything else, but you feel victorious. And then we come into our last song, Sovereign. I love the name of the song. I love the song itself, but sovereign is something so much more than freedom, right? You are a sovereign, eternal being. Under no circumstances, under no conditions can anyone ever take that away from you. And the reason sovereign was never even a concept to me before was because I was always abandoning, surrendering, sacrificing myself for others and for something else out there in order to truly get something that I needed to give me a sense of value, a sense of worth. Now all of that sense of value, that sense of worth, that need for validation, that's fulfilled from within here now, not from out there. And when you come to that place, you have that feeling of victory. You have all of a sudden that understanding that you are a sovereign being, that you can source everything that you need from within. And then, of course, we have the bonus track. The bonus track I have already actually released on YouTube. I just felt the call. It was time to release it. The bonus track is One Love, One Heart. It's a fun little track that I did, and once I created it, I was like, oh, it needs a little bit more, and I created an extended version of it. I think it's over 7 minutes, and it's a reggae feel song. It's based on Bob Marley's One Love, One Heart, and it is a great song if you want to give yourself a little bit of exercise, if you want to just let yourself go and be free. Turn on One Love, One Heart. It's been out less than a week, and it already has over 1,100 views on it on YouTube, which I'm super excited about just because I just put it out there like all of my others. None of the others even come close. For whatever reason, this track just really seems to be resonating with people and seems to be taking off a little bit. So I'm really proud of that. As always, it is not about the eradication of the shadow. It is not about the eradication of the dark. It's about allowing that shadow and seeing that shadow. And when we recognize that shadow part of self, to then bring it into the now, into the truth, and then bring it into the light. We will always have shadow parts of self. We must have the shadow, the dark, and the light in order to be a whole and unified being. But the real question is, what parts are you operating out of on a consistent basis? If you're operating out of the shadows, you'll find in your life that you're generally looking, that it generally would feel like something's missing. That you're always looking and always searching for something, and you're always looking and searching for that and for validation, etc., out there, right? But when we integrate all of these as a whole and we realize these are all wonderful parts of self, and that we bring all of this into the light because we are actually, in truth, beings of light. Going back to, again, you are the light. It's not that you are just completely all light with no darkness. We must have that darkness to be a balanced whole. But we want to live from the light itself, from the very truth of who we are. Lights which emanate, which are fractals of the one light, the one true source itself. As always, blessings and love to each of you.